A few days ago, I realized that I wasn't sure if I actually wanted to do any big kind of special report, opinion, or analysis video this week. Now, maybe this is just because I've become accustomed to massive drops of information, sometimes even including pictures every other week for all of 2022. Maybe I've just become spoiled with how much news there is to follow, but it does feel like near the end of June, there were just less big stories to discuss. So today I looked back to see if that's actually true, and honestly, I do think there were plenty of smaller and mid-sized stories to make an action-packed news episode of Broken Silicon that will come out next week. And in addition to what we'll discuss on that, I realized that today I actually want to tackle a few of the bigger stories from this recent news cycle around the end of June that have been dominating conversation. These stories include things about Zen 4 coming to AM4 supposedly, Zen 3D launches besides the 5800X 3D, and actually first, I want to give you guys an update on not AMD platforms launching this year, but Intel ones. I want to talk about a few whispers that I have to tell you on Z790. Now, the first one, maybe I've missed something, but I haven't actually seen anyone talking about this yet. Maybe it's just because everyone expects it, I don't know, but Raptor Lake on Z790 can support Gen 5 SSDs. Now, look, many of them won't, just like AM5, but this is something that should bring some sort of close to platform parity between X670 Extreme and what Raptor Lake's platform will be. Additionally, I also know that Intel is planning to start showing off Z790 at the end of July or late August, much like we saw AMD do recently. These won't include full spec sheets telling you everything in the entire lineup from every motherboard maker, but they're going to start showing them and talking about their features. And then boards will begin validation in August before production, which means that once the validation is done in August, then you have to take weeks to produce them and stockpile them and ship them. So yeah, all of this is leaning towards the motherboards being ready for Raptor Lake end of September or end of October, which means, again, everything keeps leaning towards a Raptor Lake launch in Q4, even if there's a paper launch in Q3. And just to be clear, I am aware that some motherboard makers have been talking about already having updates to support Raptor Lake on existing Z690 motherboards, and there's been some Raptor Lake samples circulating around, but talking to a couple of my sources, they at least think most likely, well, actually not most likely, they think almost 100% Intel's not going to launch Raptor Lake until their board makers' Z790 platforms are ready to be bought on Newegg as well for business reasons. Again, meaning that whether it's the CPU or more likely the motherboard production that will hold it up, Raptor Lake seems like in reality an October product at the earliest. And interestingly, I'm also hearing similar things about Zen 4. That if there are any delays to its release, which right now I've recently communicated that Zen 4 should actually launch right at the beginning of fall in September, that it's going to be because of the motherboards, not because of any issues with their CPUs. But any discussions about delays of Zen 4 or any more details about like their motherboard features and stability, that's going to be for another video. For the remainder of this one, I want to talk about what I've been hearing about upcoming Zen 3D products and Zen 4 products supposedly coming to AM4. This is something that I've talked about a little bit in a recent Broken Silicon and on PC World's The Full Nerd podcast. Check those out if you want to hear those discussions. But since then, I've actually had time to properly follow up with a few sources and have a think about it. And so, yeah, let's talk. Is it not just AM5 that you might need to play with a Zen 4 product? Could it be coming to AM4? And in fact, if not Zen 4, could more enthusiast Zen 3D products be coming to AM4 as well? So you don't even need to upgrade. We'll talk about all of that soon, but first an ad from a sponsor. Do you know everything? I don't, and Reese certainly doesn't here as well. In fact, I don't even think she knows what a lot of things even are, like ducks, for example. Both of us could probably use Brilliant. Brilliant is a sponsor of today's video. Brilliant is an interactive learning platform built to make you see math and science in a new way that's fun. Brilliant uses hands-on and pause-on courses that have been tailored to keep you engaged so you can learn STEM courses in an effective way. Whether you want to do things like brush up on everyday mathematics you're getting rusty in, or learn the fundamentals of computer science for the first time, Brilliant can keep you sharp or help you develop new skills for your career. And the best part of it is that Brilliant is free to start and waiting for you. Join the over 11 million people already learning on Brilliant with a special offer just for Moore's Law is Dead listeners. Head to brilliant.org/Moore's Law is Dead to get started for free with Brilliant's interactive lessons. The first 200 listeners will also get 20% off an annual membership. Clicking on this link really does help Moore's Law is Dead, and it costs you nothing. Get started for free at Brilliant today. All right, so when it comes to new products coming to AM4, whether Zen 4 CPUs or Zen 3D CPUs, I think there have been a lot of people in the forums and comment sections, and honestly, even some writers on some websites, reading way too far into a few recent statements. Robert Hallock, which seems to be AMD's new resident slideshow translator for the press, regarding AM4 Zen 4 and Zen 3D CPUs.
During Dr. Sue's presentation, she said AM4 will continue on. I think she said for many years to come. Any insight as to, how long AM4 CPUs will continue to be pushed in market?
So I think what people will see early on is that AM4 and AM5 will essentially coexist in the market. There's still a large appetite for AM4. There's new system designs being built around AM4. There are still markets that are adopting AM4, even as other markets are evolving past that socket. So from a global point of view, AM4 still has a lot of legs. How long? Who knows, right? It depends on so many factors over time. And yeah, there might be new CPUs released for AM4, but nothing specifically planned now. But at the same time, we're here to make money on new CPUs. So like if there's a business opportunity or a business case for it, sure, why not, right?
You see, to me, if you don't quote it in text, but actually listen to what Robert said in the video, it seems pretty clear that AMD plans to keep selling AM4 motherboards as a budget option to B650 before B650 costs come down, which I've covered before, by the way, that long-term B650 might actually settle down to cheaper than B550, although if you consider inflation, it's up for debate if it actually is literally cheaper. But anyways, the point is, Robert may have said that AM4 will be around for a while and they'll keep making CPUs and supporting them for a while. He didn't confirm that Zen 3D is coming or that anything new really is. And if we play another clip.
Is the 5800X3D going to be the last processor we'll see launched on socket AM4?
I would say probably not. I mean, I don't really know what we plan to do with socket AM4, but I think you saw Lisa talk about during her keynote that AM4 will continue, that it will live on. Yeah. And it certainly has huge demand, both from DIY builders and from pre-built customers. So yeah, could there be more AM4? Probably, but I don't have anything specific to say or announce.
So if you were to literally write down in text some of the words that literally came out of Robert's mouth, you could just say, Robert Hallock confirms, and then put in quotes, we probably have more products coming to AM4 next to AM5 in the future, or whatever he said. Like, you could point to that and make a clickbait article that says AMD kind of confirmed that Zen 4 or Zen 3D products, new ones, are coming to AM4. But if you literally listen to the video that I just played, Robert just seems to legitimately be going, probably something? Right? The fact that he doesn't know and it's probably means nothing's coming anytime soon. And thus, you shouldn't be betting on anything coming out to that platform that's, well, as exciting as the most extreme examples, Zen 4 or Zen 3D. And in fact, when I reached out to some of my sources, they had some pretty interesting things to say. In fact, one of my best sources said that a Zen 4 generation for AM4 was on some old roadmaps, but that it seemed like it wasn't concrete. Basically, there was some sort of a placeholder for something that was being considered, but that there's not any evidence, without divulging too much to get people in trouble, that anything's in motion. And in fact, when I talked to some of my other sources, the second one here being another one of my best sources, he confirmed that no motherboard makers are being briefed on this at all. And again, guys, think about the roadmaps to when products come out. Like, I've been leaking little things about Raptor Lake's motherboard and especially AM5 for months or years. And if no motherboard manufacturers are hearing about preparing microcode for Zen 4, if it's coming, it's not coming this year, most likely, and it probably won't. In fact, when I asked about Zen 3D, which to me always made more sense to be released than releasing Zen 4 on AM4, since, well, you basically already can do it. You just put another chiplet on a 5800X3D called a 5950X3D. I was told that there is nothing planned right now, and in fact, that AMD is having trouble meeting demand for Milan X. And if you think about it, that's the real scenario people who want a new generation to upgrade to on AM4 should be hoping for. That there is excess Zen 3D stock, that they have some chiplets waiting to be packaged into Milan X that aren't going to be shipped in enough time, and AMD goes, all right, let's just prepare this for AM4 and launch a 5950X3D. That could definitely happen eventually, but right now there are zero plans for that, and it's unlikely there will be any plans for that this year, at least as of this video coming out, because AMD can't even keep Milan X in stock. They make way more money off of that anyways. Now, if so far you've started to become disappointed, as I'm kind of over and over again telling you the things we were hoping might come to AM4 aren't going to come to AM4, I don't know. These words like feasible, potentially, possible actually make me excited, because I'm going to be honest. When I started digging into these rumors circulating about next-gen products coming to AM4, I thought it would all be a bunch of hogwash. I didn't think there was any chance AMD was planning to do that. But once I learned that at the very least, it's plausible that it was planned and considered to bring some Zen 4 products to AM4, I would assume then that that's because AMD designed, at least at some point in time, for Zen 4's core chiplets to be compatible with the I/O die that Zen 2 and Zen 3 use. Now, that's not 100% confirmed, but I would infer that's probably possible, that AMD wouldn't want to spend the millions of dollars to design a new I/O die for just AM4 Zen 4, that literally Zen 4 is probably compatible to some extent with the Zen 3 I/O die. Now, don't get me wrong. The people I talked to said that it still would take a lot of work in the packaging and tracing of the PCB, the microcode, to make Zen 4 work with the Zen 2 and 3 I/O die. But again, it sounds possible. And so then I go, well, then, isn't the inverse possible? Wouldn't that suggest that if you put in the work, you can make Zen 3 core chiplets work with Raphael's I/O die? I think that's probably true, and that would actually, whether we ever see any products like this or not, well, it would explain a lot about what's going on with Zen 4, and also open the door to some far more competitive products that I think people are expecting AMD may be capable of in the low end over the next couple years. Moving to a new platform is a big deal for AMD, a company that's way smaller than Intel, and there's a lot of risks involved. How expensive is DDR5 when AM5 comes out? And what happens if 3nm or 4nm weren't on time and we couldn't get the wafers from the newest nodes for reasonable prices? How can we even compete with i3s? Or if we have a bunch of old Zen 3 stock that we don't know what to do with it because no one owns AM4 anymore? Making a bridge generation, making Zen 4 and its I/O die, that might be compatible with Zen 3, and then Zen 4 core chiplets compatible with Zen 3's I/O die. This acts as a sort of bridge of technologies so that they always have added flexibility. This explains why Zen 4 looks so similar to Zen 3 if you look at it quickly. It's because it's meant to be. In fact, let me give you an example of where this flexibility can directly come in handy in the future. Right now, AMD is servicing a lot of Zen 3 and Zen 3D EPYC contracts, Milan and Milan X. They're shipping them, and there's like months of lead times. AMD will be manufacturing Zen 3 and Zen 3D EPYC products for the next year and then stockpiling them. Well, this might not be an issue right now. It's totally plausible that about a year from now, perhaps one of their big customers doesn't order as many replacement Zen 3 EPYC parts as they thought they were going to. And then AMD goes, ooh, we have some inventory to get rid of. What do we do? Oh, I know what we do. Instead of being forced to just spit out a bunch of cheap chips for AM4, although they'll be able to, they could also, depending on how the market looks at the time, elect to say, hey, you know what we're going to do to compete with this new i3? We're just going to sell something almost at cost that uses the new I/O die from Raphael, and we're just going to spit out like a $120 Zen 3 8-core. Yeah, it loses single threading, but it also crushes in multi-threading, and it's dirt cheap, and we just need to get rid of this inventory. That's what having this bridge Raphael setup where Zen 4 can potentially work with a Zen 3 I/O die, and Zen 3 can potentially work with a Zen 4 I/O die really comes in handy. The flexibility, if they need to, if there's delays or production issues launching Zen 4 products in high volume with DDR5 support, they can send those products to the last gen, or they can send the last gen to the newest platform. And when they make Zen 5 with its, entirely redesigned I/O setup and core counts and IPC and all of that, they can say, hey, we still always did design that Zen 4 I/O die that's compatible with our older products. We can always just pull that out and plug in some old stuff if we ever have any old inventory to get rid of. Zen 5 is the new cool thing, but we made this bridge architecture for a reason. But again, I want to be very clear and sobering about what's actually probably going to happen near the end of this video. I'm excited about the potential of AMD bringing other 7nm products that are compatible with their new 6nm Raphael I/O die for the low end next year, and maybe years after that if they want to. That's cool, but keep in mind, I've already told you guys, right now board makers aren't being briefed on any of this stuff. They're only preparing for Raphael, and I'm getting feedback on the performance of various Raphael Zen 4 on AM5 samples. I'm not hearing anything about new Zen 3D products or anything about any new Zen 4 on AM4 products. So what I would say is, even if potentially what I've heard about an old roadmap makes this possible, it isn't confirmed, and it at the very least isn't coming right now. Right now, I think what AMD plans to do this year is get out Zen 4 on AM5 as soon as possible to fight Raptor Lake in the high end, and then just spit out Zen 3 for lower prices for the existing AM4 stock for the low end. That's the plan, right? If you want a DDR4 AMD system, they're like, we already have AM4. Get that, get a budget system. Most people that want to get a cutting edge 12 or 16 core Zen 4 product probably want the cutting edge motherboard. And eventually, could they launch some kind of 5950X3D? Obviously, all they're doing is making a 5800X3D with both of those chiplets populated. I've already covered in previous videos that the reason the 5800X3D is clocked lower isn't because of thermal issues. It's because of voltage constraints on Vcache. So they could totally cool a 5950X3D if they wanted to. But that, yeah, if they do that, it's probably going to be some kind of like waving around paper launch near the end of this year to dissuade people from getting Raptor Lake, and really not coming out until next year. And again, I don't even think they need it. I think the 5800X3D is enough to dissuade most AM4 gamers from considering Raptor Lake or Alder Lake. Anyways, they don't, like, what most people don't need more than 8 cores, especially gamers. And they launched a flagship 8-core gaming chip already that competes with Alder Lake on an existing platform. I don't actually think they need to launch more. And again, if they do, and if they did launch Zen 4 to AM4, I don't even think they'd launch the 16 core. I think they'd stop at 12 cores at most for voltage reasons. Zen 4 has a newer generation of voltage standards and is able to use more energy, so they probably have to clock it a little lower and limit the core count a bit. So keep yourself realistic in what AMD might do here. I don't think they're going to launch the strongest flagship to AM4 and, just flood the market with Zen 3 on AM5 unless they need to. But yeah, I think at the very least, it's exciting that these things might be possible at all. And So yeah, that's going to do it for this video. I confirmed some Z790 things, and I confirmed that, well, some things are more possible with Zen 3D and Zen 4 on AM4 than I thought, that there is zero evidence it's coming anytime soon, if at all. But the implications itself are actually really exciting. Don't forget to subscribe to the Moore's Law is Dead YouTube channel and ring the bell button. And also remember that if you support us on Patreon, a new die shrink came out today just to patrons. You know, if you subscribe for just $2 a month, you'll get that, access to the Discord and a bunch of other features and premium content. A new Broken Silicon is coming up. If you're the right tier, you can ask us questions that we read aloud on Broken Silicon episodes. And a new Loose Ends is coming up as well. If you're the proper tier, you get free questions for Loose Ends. So we cannot do this without our patrons. They really make Moore's Law is Dead possible. And besides that, though, no matter what, thank you for watching.